Hi guys, it's TechBoy here with another video. This video is talking about the top 10 iPhone 5S predictions as to what will be coming out in the next iPhone, hopefully in the next few months. I am expecting it to be an iPhone 5S and not an iPhone 6, as you will probably understand the further I get into this video. So let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is insanely fast wireless technology, because with the iPhone 5, they said it was ultra-fast wireless technology. I thought I'd just step up one in the name. But really, what I'm trying to talk about is how are they going to make communications between all these devices faster? For example, they're going to have to put in 802.11ac. They just put that in the recent MacBook Airs, and they updated their time capsule and Air Extremes to be able to support this. It would be a bold move to add it to these new iOS devices to make it more compatible and just have that extra edge over others if they don't have it yet. Which is 3 times faster than 802.11n, regardless of which point you're at. So if you're such a distance away from the wireless router, you'll get 3 times the speed at that same point. Supports for more LTE bands on a single chip. LTE-Advanced chip has been a very big rumour recently, which supports up to 150 megabits per second, which is 50% faster in theoretical speeds over the LTE capabilities of the iPhone 5, which was 100 megabits per second. But this would make it a world phone, and there would be no need to make separate models for each region, because that chip would be compatible with basically all the LTE bands that are distributed around the world, which would be really good for the operation side of developing the product. Upgrade to Bluetooth 4.0 low energy, and so it's not so hard on battery life, for example. The chances of this all happening, I'm going to say 70%, because there's a very good chance they're just going to update these things as like minor things, and they'll treat it as minor upgrade, but really they're significant if you look at it into more detail. Coming in at number 9 is built-in storage. Now, the iPhone 5 comes in 16, 32 and 64 gigabytes, and for the unlocked models in Australia, there's $17.99, $8.99 and $9.99. Really, there's 2 ways they could go about doing the storage for the next iPhone. The first alternative is double the storage at the same price point, so instead of 16 gigabyte being the base model, it's 32 gigabytes. Or the alternative that they could go for separately is reduce it $100 for each model, but make the highest model 128 gigabytes for $9.99. The chances of this happening, I'm going to say 80%, mainly because they do something to do with storage every time there's an S model, because it happened with the 3GS. With the iPhone 4S, they introduced the 64 gigabyte model, because previously there was just 16 and 32. And whether they go down each of these routes, they're bound to do one of the two, but as to whether they do one over the other, we won't know until the time comes. Coming in at number 8 is the camera. Now, the camera has been highly rumoured to have a 12 or 13 megapixel sensor, 1080p 60 frames per second video recording, as per what iOS 7 is said to be believed to be able to cope with, which would only make sense. They would update the camera to support that software they're integrating in iOS 7. Dual flash support, more on that later. 360-degree panoramas. I don't get why they haven't done it yet, but it would be a really nice addition, especially when you put it on the home screen or the lock screen in iOS 7. It would just be a really nice effect. Even though it would probably drain your battery life quicker, it would still look nice as a way to show it off to all your friends. Upgrade to the rear-facing hole on the back of the device to capture more sound. Take full resolution photos while recording video. So when you take photos while recording a video on your iPhone, it's really just taking photos at 1136 by 640, which is really the equivalent of about 1 or 2 megapixels, when really you want the full 8, or now you want the full 12 or 13 megapixel pictures to be taken while recording the video. Because if that was possible, everyone would do that, because that way you get really good photos while getting good videos at the same time, so you don't have to think, oh, should I take a photo or should I take a video? Take a video, take a full resolution photo. But people will only do it if this becomes available. Change from the sapphire crystal lens cover on the back, because when you hold it up to the sun, there's that purple flare effect. 6 lenses, this is just a guess I'm making. I highly doubt it's going to happen. But there were 5 lenses in the iPhone 4S and 5, and there were 4 in the iPhone 4. So it only makes sense if they're trying to put an extra lens in, because they're upgrading the megapixel sensor to keep them maintaining the same sharpness of the photos, even though they're getting bigger. And can I just make a small minor request on the sideline? Can you please change the icon? I'm not going to say it's hideous, but yes, it does look like a camera, but being 21st century, it looks like you've just got a digital pocket camera from the 1950s. Aren't smartphones meant to be almost the killer device for pocket cameras? Because they're almost the number one on the list in terms of soon to become obsolete, unless something happens to the pocket camera industry. But it doesn't make sense to put an actual picture of a camera itself. It was fine the way it was in iOS 6. If they could have just made that as a flatter image and less gloss on it, it would have been perfect. I don't understand why they've changed it, but hopefully they will do something about it. Coming in at number 7 is near-field communications. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to say, yes, AirDrop is Apple's solution to Android's bumping phone solution to share files with each other, as Craig Federighi said at WWDC 2013.
You tap on one, and they're going to get a panel right on their display, and they can accept what it is that you shared. They accept it, they're taken right into the app. And you know, if you want to share with multiple people, you just tap, tap, tap. No need to wander around the room bumping your phone with others.
You're so funny, Craig. I really love that. But anyway, moving on. Mobile payments would really benefit from near-field communication, because I'm not sure if it can't be done over Bluetooth or not, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't. But it would mean you could theoretically use the device as a credit card, providing you've opened up your bank account details, which you can connect to over the cellular network on your iPhone, and you just tap on, like you do with a Visa Payway, for example. You tap and go, but you could do it with your mobile phone instead, so you don't have to carry your wallet and all that. That would just be a huge step in the mobile payments industry. The NFC-enabled speakers, so instead of using Bluetooth to connect to other devices, or AirPlay, for example, which I understand is Apple's alternative to technologies like NFC and all that, it would just be easier to just tap the device itself with the phone, then it's automatically synced, and then you can play the music a lot sooner. Same goes for headphones. NFC tags would be really nice, so you could get these little plastic tags that are like a very large circle. They're bigger than a 50-cent coin in Australia, but what you do is you program them with the device itself what you want them to do every time you tap it. So if you put it in the car, for example, and you tap it, you'd want it to turn on Bluetooth, you want it to connect to the Bluetooth system in your car, and if you've got a card that supports iOS 7's iOS in the car, you'll want it to be able to sync up to that and all that, and possibly start playing a playlist in your music library on your device itself. I mean, Apple was all about the magic. They could have got in front of this, but it now seems like if it was implemented, it would mainly be for mobile payments and a few other nifty features, like I just said before, that third parties can take advantage of. The chances of this happening, honestly, it's going to be 50%, but if they don't put it in this time, I somehow don't think we're ever going to see NFC in a future iOS device. Number 6 is wireless charging. Now, for those that don't know what wireless charging is, simply, it's a pad that is connected to the power, like you would with a cable into the phone and to charge it overnight, but it allows users to place their phone on the pad and not fiddle with cables all the time. It's really just for convenience and that, as to just placing the phone on a little pad and it will charge the device that way. Then if you've got a phone call or something, you just take it off instead of having to pull connectors out and stuff like that in the time you've got to answer the phone call. Talk on the phone, put it straight back. You just put it on the pad itself and it will just start charging it automatically. I mean, who is doing this at the moment? There's Nokia, they're doing it on the Lumia 920. Samsung's doing it on their Galaxy S4, and Google's doing it on their Nexus 4. Apple should have got in front of all of this because of how convenient it is, and it just seems so magical, you could say, in Apple's terms, of simplifying the ways that they charge stuff already. But then again, that would make their new Lightning connector almost unnecessary to use, because you would only use it if you don't have a wireless network at home and just want to sync devices via USB, or you haven't got that on you, haven't got the wireless charging pad on you. So the chances of this happening, like NFC, I'm going to say 50%, but if it doesn't happen, I somehow don't think it's ever going to happen. Number 5 is longer battery life. Quite simply, this can only be done with a larger battery. The latest rumours say that it's going to have a 5.92 watt-an-hour battery compared to 5.5 watt-an-hour battery in the iPhone 5. It's rumoured to have 1560 milliamps compared to 1440 milliamps in the iPhone 5, which results in 8% larger battery life. So almost a tenth of the battery that existed in the iPhone 5 has been added on, which would only make sense if they can somehow engineer all the other parts in the device itself to be smaller to fit more space for the battery. Options to turn off features to save battery life would be really useful, and they have done this in iOS 7's control center. So if you don't need your Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or you're not expecting a phone call or something, you can turn it on and off Wi-Fi, turn on and off Bluetooth, and you can turn on and off Do Not Disturb. And simple and easy. I'm glad they did that. Power nap technologies from OS X Mavericks would be really nice addition, because Craig Federighi said during the WWDC 2013 keynote that it would only use the power for what is happening in the foreground and what is clearly visible to the user. So if you've got like a video or high graphic rendering image on the screen that moves a lot, yes, more power should be dedicated to that for it to move around and all that. But if you've got something like an iTunes library, which is just all still pictures and plain text and all that, there's no need to put more battery life into it, because it would just be unnecessary. So it accommodates battery life where needed. And if they did the same for the iPhones and the iPads, for example, even the iPods, it would just extend battery life beyond what they already have. Chances of this happening, I'm going to say 70%. Coming in at number 4 is iOS 7. I just thought I'd give a brief review on it in terms of what we've been shown so far prior to iOS 7 Beta 3 coming out. The new user interface is basically a new coat of paint, but iOS 7 itself has a very familiar user interface. It's not like going from Windows 7 to Windows 8, which was completely different. It's more like going from iOS 5 to iOS 6, except it just has a new coat of paint over it to make it look different and feel different, but it operates in almost exactly the same way. There's just the odd little things like different way of doing transitions or new icon set and all that, but really it's very much the same, which was a huge part of iOS 7 itself. But then they announced 10 other features that went along with it. There was, of course, the redesigned applications. There was the control center, which you swipe at the bottom of the device up and you can toggle things like your brightness, music controls, AirDrop I'll get to eventually, AirPlay, and toggles for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Do Not Disturb, and all those. I really loved that, and it makes sense to put it there and not in the notification center, because that's where information goes whereas control center for all your toggles should be completely separate. I really like how they've gone about doing that. Multitasking got some updates, so there's multitasking for all applications with great battery life. I'm not sure how developers would take advantage of multitasking in the way of they are marketing it to be now, but hopefully they will work out something good in the long run. And the live tiles, when you double tap the home button, you've got live tiles of all the applications running in the background, and it looks really good in terms of you'll be able to see what you're last doing, so you can then decide whether to jump into that application or not. I really love how they've gone about it. AirDrop is basically sharing files between iOS devices, including the iPhone 5, the iPad 4, iPad mini, and the 5th gen iPod Touch, wherever there is a share sheet on the device. Siri got a few new features, including Bean integration and Wikipedia integration as well, so it would expand the catalogue as to what you can ask Siri itself. There's a new transparent UI, very similar to what it is for Notification Center, and new male and female voices, which NEQ claims as high definition voices, and they're not anywhere near as robotic as what Siri was in iOS 5 and 6, and what it was when it was on the iPhone 4S. Notification Center just got a few updates, such as the Today tab at the top, All, and Missed, so you can filter all the notifications you have, and it's got a new transparent look to it. iOS in the car is really good for cars that will be integrating it in 2014. So if you're going to look into updating the car and there's a car manufacturer that is going to have those updates, it would be really nice. Safari just got a few additional features, including better switching between apps with a new look. And you can have more than just 8 tabs, and it's got a new full screen look in portrait mode. They're all really nice additions. Camera photos up, got a few additions, including live filters over the top. So if you take a photo with one filter, you can revert back to it without a filter afterwards, which is really nice. And photos, it's got a better organisation into moments and collections, so you don't have to continuously scroll through your photos. And iTunes Radio is really nice, but it's only in America at the moment. I hope they can get all the record companies onto all of this to work worldwide. The chances of iOS 7 being the iPhone 5S, 99.9% chance. If it isn't going to be ready in time for the iPhone announcement, I really think they'll delay the iPhone being announced to simultaneously release it with iOS 7. Number 3 is the A7 chip. To put it quite simply, it's assumed to be a quad-core processor, or I believe it too, quad-core GPU, graphics processing unit, 2 times faster processing, 2 times faster graphics. It could make advantage of gaming over AirPlay a lot smoother and capable of better graphics, and it could lead to better battery life if it has similar architecture to Intel's new Haswell chips that they've put in the MacBook Air, which resulted in 12 hours of battery life in the 13-inch model. If they did something like that in the iPhone 5S or even in the iPad 5, if they put this in there, it could extend the battery life a lot more, and it could potentially mean they don't need as big a battery, or if they keep the battery the same size or make it slightly bigger, it will last even longer. Chances of this happening, I'm going to say 90%, because if they don't update it, it's probably going to stay an A6X in the iPad 4th generation, carried over to the iPad 5. But I really do hope they update it like they do every year. Coming in at number 2 is biometric security, which is really distinguishing you from every other human being on the planet. And the easiest way to do it is with a fingerprint sensor. It's rumoured to be implemented into the home button, even though Apple managed to get a patent to say that they can put stuff like that in the bezel of the device. So it could be behind the home button on the device itself on the back, or it could be on the side next to the home button or anything like that. It would be really nice. It would make perfect sense for it to be the iPhone 5S, because S in 3GS stood for speed, S in 4S stood for Siri, therefore S in iPhone 5S would be security in terms of biometric security and fingerprint sensors. It makes sense because Apple purchased Authentic, which specializes in all of this technology, for $365 million last year, and there would be advantages to all of this, including no need to show your password in public. So like if you're on the tram and all that, there's no need to put your password in and be afraid that anybody would want to steal your device and then use that PIN to get in and then claim they own the device and all that stuff. Would be really, really handy. I can see this going a long way. And mobile payments, so you could almost have to scan your fingerprint to show that yes, you are the verified user for that phone, for that account. Then you can tap on and use it as a credit card. Would be really nice. Chances of this happening, I'm going to say 80%, but if it does happen, it's basically going to be the selling point of the next iPhone, like Siri was with the iPhone 4S. Now, before we get to number one, let's remind ourselves why Apple does an S model every 2 years. One, there's 2-year contracts, and two, makes customers more satisfied. Apple releases the single number models as the major upgrades. We've taken everything and put it in a smaller package, whereas the S models contains all the real specs upgrades, as from what I've been seeing in the past, including the camera and storage. And also they iron out the bugs, like with the iPhone 4S, they had antenna gate issues with the iPhone 4, and then they resolved that in the iPhone 4S with a better way to switch between two antennas to transmit and receive calls and data, which was really nice. Customers of the iPhone will feel more satisfied if an S model comes out every 2 years, as they would get annoyed if there was a radical redesign every single year. And if Apple did that, it would mean they could A, lose customers for changing the game so frequently, and B, there would be too much innovation now and less to do in the future. So if they brought stuff out like fingerprint sensors and all that years ago, what would they bring out in the next couple of months? It would just slow down the innovation ball, so then there's more time for other technologies to come through, so then they can implement those. And finally, number one, I'm sure most of you have guessed it, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise, is the iPhone 5 design. To put it simple, the same design, same colours, even though there's been a rumour recently saying that it's going to come in a product red version, which means that they would donate most of the money to charity, but how would they go about making that model like it's on the screen at the moment in red? I wouldn't have a clue. They'd probably put white on the front and then red on the back or something, but I just wouldn't be a fan of it. Personally, I like the black look and all that. It just looks sleek. Same screen size, but the only way to tell it apart would be the dual flash on the back. So if you look at the image on the left, it's got a single flash, and then the image on the right, it's got two flashes stacked on top of each other in the shape of like a tablet pill, medicine pill, which would be the only way to tell apart the iPhone 5 from the 5S. Whereas with the iPhone 4 to the 4S, there were changes in the slots on the metal band that goes around the phone. So that was the easiest way you could tell it apart. Whereas this, if they changed the way the flash is on the back, it would be easy for every one of the Apple retail stores, for example, all the staff and all that, and anyone in public, just to tell apart which device is from what. So I thought I'd end things slightly different today. I'm sure everyone's going to ask, should you upgrade to the next iPhone? The more of these features that I just talked about are actually in the device, there's the better the reason to upgrade. But only listen to what I'm going to say below, provided you want to stick with Apple and not switch to Android or Windows. Whatever you do, don't switch to BlackBerry. And your 2-year contract is almost complete. If you have an iPhone 4, it's worth upgrading. If you have an iPhone 4S, it's worth upgrading. If you have an iPhone 5, it's best to just wait until the iPhone 6 when your contract's up, because it looks almost exactly the same. I mean, girls and stuff see iPhones as, like, you want to be seen with the latest technology and all that, but really, it looks almost exactly the same as the iPhone 5, based on these rumours. So, personally, I would wait for the iPhone 6, and it's no point wasting your contract and having to pay extra to get out of it just to get a few little features when you'll get that in the iPhone 6 when your contract has expired. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. The question for you, the audience, is what are your top 5 expectations for the iPhone 5S? And if they do come out, will you upgrade? And will you upgrade depending on what device you have at the moment? So you can let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this, please give it a like. And if you choose to, subscribe to my channel. And I don't force people to subscribe to my channel, but if they personally do, it is greatly appreciated. And I wouldn't pay anyone to force them into giving me a like or subscribe to my channel, but it's always greatly appreciated. I thought I'd just do things slightly different at the end of this video. I thought I'd give you a sneak peek at something I've been working on. And here it is. You're probably thinking, what the heck, this is nothing like what you normally do. What has this got to do with tech? Well, it will make perfect sense once the next video comes out. It's basically a picture of like a soft drink can with a question mark on it. What could this mean? What does it mean in terms of technology? You will see what I'm trying to get at when my new video comes out. So once the video related to this image becomes available, you'll be able to click on this image and it will take you to the first video in this new series of videos I'm making. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I will catch you later.